You see this 1,000 naira note in my hand? It is just paper.
Paper, really? Mommy, no.
Don't mind her. You can't eat it, you can't drink it, yet you decide what you can buy, where you can go, and sometimes how people treat you. So at some point, humans agreed on something very strange, that this paper or the numbers that we see in our bank accounts would actually mean something of value. But that didn't mean that the paper here, this paper had value. It was just that we humans believed or agreed to actually believe that this paper had value. Now, this didn't just start with paper. I know we are all familiar with the trade by barter system, and that is where the story begins. People were exchanging produce or their items to get other items. So if the situation goes like this, if I have yam and I want beans, I'll look for someone that wants yam and also will give me beans. And that was how the system worked. But the problem with that system was, what if I wanted beans and I had yam, but I don't see anybody that wanted yam but will give me beans, basically? So there was that deal couldn't happen. And imagine having that, and maybe I'm forced to actually take what I do not want to take, right? So that system had a flaw, and that's when people decided that they actually needed a source of value, like a universal medium, where even if I don't have that, then I can give you and you can go somewhere else to get what you want, basically. So instead of me having to instead of me look for someone to give me beans, I can give the person the yam, the person gives me something of value that people trust, that can actually give somebody else to give me the beans that I want. So I do not expect everybody to have the beans, but the person can give me a medium of value or a store of value. I can actually take that store of value to someone else to give me the beans I want. And people moved to gold. So they looked for something that physical, that they could see, touch, and that was rare, that was hard to fake, and that people wanted, basically, right? So when they had that, they could use that as a medium of value to exchange for any other produce, right? Or any other thing they had, a produce, an item, whatever, right? So that was it. And gold was picked because gold is shiny. We all know how gold is. Who doesn't want gold? It's shiny. It was even scarce. So gold was picked as a medium for that exchange. It actually came as a bridge, right, to solve that problem that existed between the trade by barter system. But gold, however, had its own issues. Now, it was hard for you to divide gold. It was very hard for you to divide gold because you know gold, right? And also, carrying it around was a problem, right? Imagine I want to get something, I have to carry very large amounts of gold or whatever, and it's going to be heavy also. So it was a problem. And also, carrying gold around wasn't safe because people could just mob you and take the gold away. So it wasn't safe to actually be carrying gold around. And so as trade expanded, gold became a burden. So the problem caused by gold, right, the burden brought by gold, was now solved by something that humans did. So what they did was, is it possible for us to actually prove that we have gold without actually carrying the gold to the person? So what they did was, they looked for a safe medium to store their gold, and places they used were like the goldsmiths and the early banks, right? So they know that they had safe, like maybe locks that were actually safe. So they gave them the gold, and them in return, that means the early banks and the goldsmiths, gave them a receipt in return to prove that yes, they stored gold here. So instead of them actually carrying the gold to wherever they want to make exchanges, right, they just take that receipt to the place and they transfer ownership of the receipt. So instead of me saying, take this gold and give me this, I just say I transfer this receipt of proving that I have gold with the goldsmith or the bank, and in return you give me this. So that was something they could actually trust, right? And that worked. But at first, that paper wasn't money. It was just a proof until people started saying that, oh, I don't really need to go back to the blacksmith, let me just transfer the receipt, right? The money at first, sorry, the paper at first was just a proof, it wasn't money. But over time, things have actually changed, and people don't actually back, or we don't even back our money by gold anymore. Or let me ask you, when last did you store more gold in the bank and get a receipt and you are using that as exchange? Or the 1,000 naira with you, did you store any gold anywhere for you to actually get that, basically? So now money isn't actually stored, or the value on our money on this 1,000 naira isn't actually based off a gold stored somewhere else. It is actually the paper now that we actually trust, and this is backed by the institutions, agreements, systems, right, that have actually come together to actually make us believe that yes, we can actually place value and we can actually trust this money, and the system still works. So what happens when inflation rises or when naira loses its value? What really breaks isn't this paper, it's the trust behind it. And when that trust shakes, everything becomes harder. We've all experienced it, right? We've seen that money isn't powerful by itself. Trust is what makes powerful by itself. Because money only works because we keep believing in it. We believe in it. The moment we stop believing in this money, then it just becomes paper. And so we've seen that some of the most powerful things in the world are things that we cannot even touch. They are actually ideas that we have agreed to believe in. I hope you've learned something today. My name is Estayola, and see you in my next video. Bye.